carrying on our conversations, but our first guest today, who we're very excited to have with us, Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, who represents Texas' 7th Congressional District. She spoke with ABC 13 on Monday about how lawmakers in Washington aren't doing enough to keep the president and the executive branch in check. Now it's our turn to talk to her about it. Congresswoman, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thanks so much, Ernie. I'm so glad to join you and Celeste and Frank in this inaugural week of Hello Houston. I'm thrilled
Thank
to
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, Congresswoman, you are actually my representative. I just want to put that out there as full disclosure. doesn't mean I don't have tough questions. I just want you to know that you represent me up there in Washington.
I guess the first place to start on this type of a conversation is the fact that what we hear all the time is, you know what, Democrats are outnumbered. There's nothing they can do. What, the votes are going to come in the way they're going to come in. What can we do about it? Your feelings and thoughts on that, and how do we keep one party in check when another party is in the minority?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's good to start kind of understanding what we can and can't do. And at the same time, understanding that we have to keep doing everything we're doing and be creative and come up with more. Because I think there are kind of traditional views about how you can be successful, what you can do when you're in the minority. But the truth is, we are in unprecedented times. And this House minority is unlike any past House minority that I've served in, which was the last one, or that really anyone up here has experienced. And what I mean by that is we're seeing the majority just fold itself into the executive branch and basically rubber stamp the unprecedented actions that President Trump and his administration are taking. And Congress is just abandoning its responsibilities to the people that we represent. And so we are working hard not only to do the traditional things that we've always tried to do if we're in the minority, but to make sure that we're using every tool that we have to put a check on the administration and to urge Congress to perform the job that we're here to perform.
I do want to clarify
to conduct oversight and to govern.
I do want to clarify one thing that we didn't say in the beginning, and I'm sure people could surmise it from your comments here. You are a Democrat, and we are talking right now about the Democratic Party. And
while we're talking about that, Congresswoman, at the State of the Union, I know on the Democratic side, you all held up different signs. It didn't seem unified. The Democrats don't seem unified to fight this fight. What's your take on that?
Well, I do think Democrats are unified. I don't know that the State of the Union is the best example, because I think different people had different ideas of how do you meet the moment. And as I was saying before, this is a moment unlike any other we have experienced, and I can't stress that enough. I think it's really important for people to understand it is not business as usual up here in the White House, and it cannot be business as usual in Congress.
Well, what
I think you're seeing is people trying to figure out how to convey that message and how to demonstrate those sentiments when we are limited and in the minority.
Well, Cory Booker stood up for over 24 hours, setting records, drawing attention to all the things he hates about the Trump administration, and sort of pounding the desk there. And that's good symbolically for the Democrats. Realistically, what can you do?
Well, there are a few things we can do. And while Senator Booker was holding the floor in the Senate, we were voting in the House yesterday on kind of what we do the first day of every session, which is the rule that we're going to follow for the rest of the week. The bills we're going to debate, the things that how we're going to debate them, how much time, how many amendments, all that kind of stuff. At the beginning of the week, we vote on that. And I think it's the third or fourth time since I've been here, but highly unusual, the rule did not pass. That is usually a partisan rule. Whoever's in the majority votes yes, whoever's in the minority votes no. But the House Speaker was trying to kill a tool of the minority through the rule vote yesterday, which is if you can get 218 people to agree to bring a bill to the floor, the Speaker has to bring it. It's called a discharge petition, not to get super in the weeds, but there are a few tools in the minority, and there had been a discharge petition about a functional kind of issue in the House, which is letting recent parents vote remotely, as we did during COVID. And the speaker did not want that to happen.
But it did happen.
We defeated the rule yesterday,
Yeah.
and that is a tool in the minority.
Well,
It's the kind of thing that we can do to push back. And I think what it showed and was important is that we can use the tools that we have on the things that matter. And certainly we have to, as we look at the things coming to our committees where they're trying to gut Medicaid in my committee, where they're messing with Social Security, where they're doing all kinds of cuts to programs that we rely on in our community to fund a big tax break for Elon Musk and his billionaire buddies.
Right.
And so we are going to use the tools we have, and we saw yesterday the successful use of one of those tools in the House.
okay.
Right. And Congresswoman Fletcher, you introduced new legislation to improve mental health care for seniors yesterday. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, talking about funds being rolled back? Talk to us a little bit about that bill that you presented.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the great challenges that we have up here, frankly, is that we want to continue to do the important work of legislating that we have been doing. And over the years, I have supported a lot of different pieces of legislation, introduced legislation to help increase access to mental health care resources. And one of the bills that I'm really proud of is one to try to increase access earlier in the process of getting access to care when you're meeting with your primary care physician instead of waiting for a referral to get to a therapist and a psychologist. So there are a lot of different things that we have been doing and are continuing to do, and it's one of the frustrations here is that while we are legislating and holding hearings and trying to develop smart and sound policy, Elon Musk or Secretary Kennedy, for example, when it comes to healthcare, are taking a chainsaw to the programs, to the laws, to the agencies that Congress has established without, with impunity, right? They are just saying, we don't think we should do this. So yesterday, while we were in a hearing on the FDA and on an FDA program that Congress started 5 years ago that needs to be reauthorized, people were lined up down the street from our building outside of the Health and Human Services Department building, badging in to find out if they still had their job. If it was green, they could go in. If it was red, they had been fired.
Wow.
And Secretary Kennedy announced last Friday they were cutting 20% of the workforce. Former FDA commissioner said during our hearing, the FDA, as we've known it, that of course makes sure that our food and drugs and cosmetics are safe, has been gutted. It no longer exists.
And Congresswoman,
And they need to come before Congress.
We've been hearing a lot of these stories and seeing this on the news. I think my question more so, and I think you need to look back to move forward. And I'm curious, how do you think, or why do you think we found ourselves in this position? And from understanding that, how then do the Democrats move forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is absolutely the right one to be asking. And I certainly think there is a consensus among the House Democrats that I work with and a lot of folks at home that what we saw in November is that a lot of people feel like government isn't working. It isn't working for them. And people wanted change. They were focused a lot on cost and inflation and why the grocery bill was so high. Of course, we see the price of eggs is even higher than it was in November.
Yep.
And now we have things, and this is the challenge, I think. What we see from this administration is not a concerted effort to address and bring down costs. We see these totally chaotic and haphazard actions that are only going to increase costs, whether it's the tariffs. We know President Trump is announcing some more today. We know there's this 25% tariff on cars. We've seen tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Right, but with all of that, the Democratic...
All bring costs up.
Right, but the approval rating still for the Democratic Party is historically low. How does that change? This is going on.
Well, notwithstanding Wisconsin.
Right, but then we're seeing something happening yesterday with Wisconsin. Congresswoman?
I think we lost Congressman. We'll try to get her back on the line as soon as we can. But, it's really interesting that she is saying how the government people really wanted change, and people feel like the government isn't working.
Yeah.
And so now we have an administration, to use Congresswoman Fletcher's own words, that is basically taking a chainsaw to a lot of these programs, unfortunately, that help the same people that are saying that they don't think the government is working.
Well, let's face it, though. The government needs a little slimming and trimming.
Absolutely.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton did it with approval of Congress. It took 6 months for Congress to really whittle down and approve and suggest the different cuts. Some of them Gore and Clinton took. Some of them they didn't.
Right.
And so it was pretty well accepted, and it led to a balanced budget, which we haven't had since then. So I get the cutting the government. It needs to be cut. It needs to be defattened. That's for sure. But it's just, I think they're going about it in totally the wrong way.
Yes, and I believe we have Congresswoman Fletcher back on the line. Congresswoman Fletcher, are you there?
I am here. I'm so sorry we got cut off, and I think I was in the middle of saying, it's up to the candidates and the members of Congress to talk to our own communities about the work that we're doing and the values that we share and the vision that we have for how to make government work for everybody.
Yeah.
So I think I was saying that when we got cut off. And anyway, I'm not going to go on and on, but
we
happy to do that with
appreciate
y'all.
the work that you have been doing on behalf of all of us here in Houston, and we hope you'll keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's what I'm here for, and it's a real privilege.